Okay, lean in close, because something happened. Something that turned my quiet life upside down like a dropped inkwell. At 23, most people I know are navigating cramped apartments with roommates, not residing with their cousin. Trust me, living with family wasn't exactly my dazzling life plan. Architecture consumes my days, the endless sketching, the persuasive presentations, juggling those freelance gigs. Life threw its usual curveballs when my parents split years ago, a chaotic whirlwind of moves until I landed, somewhat unexpectedly, with my cousin Liam in the peaceful suburb of Oakhaven. It was supposed to be temporary, a calm harbor while I finished my degree after my mom took a demanding job across the country. Liam, bless his generous heart, was the only family who could take me in. He and his wife Clara lived in a charming house tucked away from the city's relentless hum. I envisioned quiet evenings and focused studies, another uneventful chapter. Boy, was I wrong. Months drifted by, and Oakhaven's gentle rhythm became familiar. I thought I'd settled into the predictable calm, but then, it happened. It started with a simple peek into Liam's room while he was resting. But before I spill all the messy details, you need to understand Liam. He's always been more than just family. He's been my guide. Growing up, he was the one who patiently showed me how to fix a wobbly bike wheel and helped me nail that impossible model for school. My 18th birthday, he surprised me with the exact sketching set I'd been dreaming of all year. So when Mom needed a safe place for me, Liam was the obvious choice. He's not the kind of cousin who only surfaces for holidays. He's genuinely present. But living with Liam meant living with Clara too. They'd been married for almost 3 years. Initially, I felt a hesitant distance with Clara. She was older, with this composed air that made it hard to find my place in their world. My guest room was at the quiet end of the house, and I mostly kept to myself, respecting their space. Slowly, though, a bridge started to form. Clara began sharing little nuggets of wisdom, cooking tips, home hacks, those small lifestyle secrets that somehow make life smoother. While we never shared the easy camaraderie I had with Liam, the space between us softened, making everyday life more harmonious. Until everything shifted. My bond with Liam deepened over those months. His presence became a steady anchor. He was a fantastic listener, never judgmental, always patient. Most evenings we'd find ourselves together after dinner, sometimes lost in stories, sometimes just enjoying the quiet hum of music. Lately, though, a subtle unease had crept in. A shift I couldn't quite name. Fleeting moments of comfort started to feel different. The way his laughter lingered a fraction too long, the accidental brush of his hand reaching for the same thing, the way he'd look at me when he thought I wasn't watching. It was all charged. I wasn't sure if he felt it too, but this invisible thread of tension was growing between us, like a hidden current beneath still water. You might be thinking, he's your cousin, and I know, it sounds absurd. Yet, this feeling, this inexplicable pull, refused to be ignored. I tried to rationalize it, chalking it up to a simple longing for closeness. But every time we were alone, the air thickened, as if an unseen force was drawing us closer. Which brings me to that night. The evening had been quiet. After dinner, I retreated to my room to wrestle with a particularly tricky design. Liam had turned in early, and Clara was away at an overnight conference. I was lost in my work until soft, deliberate footsteps in the hallway snagged my attention. At first I dismissed it, but then I heard the faint creak of his door opening, and I froze. My mind raced. Should I check on him? Leave him to rest? Curiosity, that relentless little gremlin, won. I wanted to talk to him, maybe unravel the unspoken questions hanging between us. Quietly I eased my door open, careful not to make a sound. There he was, one arm draped behind his head, his face serene in sleep. Moonlight spilled through the window, painting soft shadows across his jawline, highlighting its sharp contours. My breath hitched, my heart hammered against my ribs. A wave of warmth flushed my cheeks as I stood there, rooted to the spot, overwhelmed by emotions I couldn't decipher. Was I just there to watch him in this peaceful moment? Or was it something deeper, something nameless? I don't know how long I stood there, lost in thought, until my clumsy elbow nudged a small figurine on the shelf. It tumbled, hitting the floor with a soft clatter. Liam stirred. His eyes fluttered open, his gaze locking onto mine. For a fleeting second, confusion clouded his face, but beneath it, something else. Something unspoken, something I couldn't quite read. He blinked, trying to focus, then a soft, sleepy laugh escaped his lips. Eliza, what are you doing in here? His voice was thick with sleep. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm as I scrambled for words. I didn't want to seem intrusive, but my mind had gone completely blank. My mouth felt like sandpaper. I didn't mean to disturb your sleep, I stammered, a wave of embarrassment washing over me. Liam slowly sat up, gently rubbing his eyes. He looked at me with that familiar, kind smile, but this time there was a flicker in his eyes that sent my pulse racing even faster. He paused, as if studying me more closely, then spoke, his voice softer than usual. It's okay, Eliza. You can always talk to me whenever you need to. I nodded, but inside, a whirlwind was brewing. I didn't know how to control the storm of emotions churning in my chest. The air in the room felt heavy, and my breathing quickened. I just wanted to talk, I whispered, my voice weak but sincere. Liam's smile softened, and a hint of hesitation flickered in his eyes before vanishing just as quickly. Come here, he said, his tone calm and warm. You can tell me anything. I hesitated for a heartbeat, unsure of what to do. But something inside me urged me forward. Before I could overthink it, I walked over and sat down beside him. The room seemed to shrink, and the tension between us became almost palpable. I could feel the warmth radiating from his body next to mine, catch the familiar, subtle scent of him in the air. We were so close I could hear his steady breathing, see the rise and fall of his chest. My heart hammered again, threatening to break free. Slowly, I looked up at him. Our faces were inches apart. I could feel his warmth on my skin. His gaze was soft, but tinged with uncertainty, and in that gaze, something that sent a shiver down my spine. His voice was a low murmur, as if trying to stop me from speaking. His lips parted slightly, and instinctively, I leaned in. My face felt flushed, the sound of my own heartbeat deafening in my ears. What am I doing? What is happening? I couldn't name the emotions surging through me, but everything inside felt like it was on fire, powerful and impossible to control. Liam remained still, his eyes fixed on mine with a quiet intensity that mirrored my own inner turmoil. He was silent, but I could feel his breathing quickening, matching mine. The room suddenly felt warmer, as if the very air between us had shifted. The silence was thick with unspoken emotions. My mind was a chaotic mess of thoughts, none clear enough to hold me back. Everything seemed to be leading to this moment, an unexpected, inexplicable moment. I felt myself losing control. I leaned in, my lips trembling as they brushed against his. His lips met mine with a tenderness that held an unexpected strength, like a wave of emotions I couldn't hold back. A part of me screamed to stop, to pull away, but my body refused. I needed this. I craved this, even as I feared what I was diving into. Stop avoiding it, a voice whispered in my mind. His hands gently cupped my face, his warm fingers brushing over my skin, drawing me closer. His other hand rested lightly on the edge of the bed, and when his fingertips grazed my arm, a warmth spread through me, a spark igniting every part of me in a way that defied reason. The kiss deepened, blurring the lines between him and me. Nothing existed beyond that room, no outside world, no time. Just us, caught in an inescapable whirlpool of emotions. In my head, a flood of mixed feelings surged, confusion, guilt, and even a faint, dangerous glimmer of hope. What are we doing? Why? I couldn't put it into words, but the feeling was so overwhelming that logic no longer mattered. He pulled away slightly, his forehead resting gently against mine. Both of us were breathing heavily, our gasps mingling. My heart pounded so fiercely, I thought he could hear it. Eliza, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. We shouldn't be doing this. His voice trembled, as if he too was battling his own reason. I wasn't sure if I agreed or not. A force inside me argued that some rules were meant to be broken. Gently, I grasped his hand, our fingers intertwining as if seeking reassurance. He didn't pull away. Instead, he held my hand tightly, as if afraid that letting go would make everything fall apart. We stared at each other for a long moment in silence, a silence that carried all the words we couldn't say. The weight of what had just happened hung in the air, an unspoken question lingering. Should we continue? I let my hand drift to the back of his neck, drawing him closer. This time, there was no hesitation, no fear. No more distance, no more uncertainty. I needed this closeness, needed to feel his presence again. His hand slid down my back, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. All that remained was our rapid breathing and the unspoken understanding. I didn't know where this was going, but in that moment, the only thing that mattered was that fleeting connection. A moment I didn't want to let go of, where the world outside blurred and only the two of us existed in this small universe. The room seemed to shrink, the air between us thick with an unnameable swirl of emotions. Liam's breath brushed softly against my ear, sending shivers down my spine. I wasn't sure if it was from the tension or if the closeness was simply overwhelming. "Are you sure?" he murmured, his voice husky but filled with hesitation. "I don't want to hurt you." I closed my eyes, trying to rein in the turbulent thoughts flooding my mind. Everything inside me was at war. My reason screamed at me to step back, to end it here before things spiraled out of control, but my emotions wouldn't yield. They burned like a fire, and I realized I could no longer deny myself. "I'm sure," I whispered, my voice trembling but sincere. I felt the warmth of my hand as it slid over his shoulder, down to his chest, rising and falling with each shallow breath. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it was about to burst. Liam gazed into my eyes once more, as if searching for a sign that I wasn't making a mistake. His eyes were filled with emotions hard to describe, a longing for closeness and a burden of invisible responsibility. When his lips found mine again, the world around us seemed to dissolve. Time disappeared. No sounds from the outside world could reach us. It was just us, wrapped in a moment I knew would be etched in my memory forever. But just as everything seemed to still, a sound echoed from downstairs. The front door opened and closed hurriedly, letting in a sudden chill. I froze, my senses suddenly heightened. "Liam?" Clara's voice called out, not loud, but enough to make the air in the room turn cold as ice. My heart plummeted. I quickly stood up, guilt flooding every part of me. I tried to steady my breathing, but I couldn't control the wild thudding in my chest. Liam remained seated on the bed, his gaze distant, as if clinging to the last fragments of calm. I looked at him, but he simply lowered his head, his hands trembling as they gripped the edge of the bed. His silence spoke volumes, mirroring the fear I felt. The sound of Clara's footsteps echoed steadily up the stairs, like the ominous knock of fate. The door creaked open slowly, and Clara stepped inside with an unsettling calmness. Her eyes swept across the room. In that moment, she didn't need to ask. She understood everything. Clara's eyes held a pain deeper than anger, a pain I could do nothing to ease. "Liam, Eliza, what is going on here?" Clara's voice was soft but weighted, like a dagger piercing through my mind. The words caught in my throat. I wanted to explain, but I didn't know where to begin. I lowered my gaze, my hands clenched tightly in shame. Liam remained motionless, his hand reaching up to rub the back of his neck, a reflex whenever he didn't know how to face a situation. Clara looked at him, her eyes searching for an answer he couldn't give. "Eliza?" Clara called my name, but there was no reproach in her voice. Her tone was heavy, but not filled with resentment. That made me feel even more guilty than before. I had braced myself for a storm, but instead, I found a silence so deep it felt like an abyss. "I know things aren't as simple as I thought," Clara continued, her gaze softening, "but there are things you don't fully understand." I looked at her, bewildered. She didn't ask anything more, just looked at us with calm but sorrowful eyes, a strange serenity, as though she had been prepared for this moment for a long time. Liam remained silent, his eyes filled with a nameless regret. The room was weighed down by an oppressive quiet, but I knew that from this moment on, nothing could ever return to the way it had been. Clara wasn't abandoning us. She was giving us a chance, a fragile and ambiguous chance, but a chance nonetheless. I glanced at Liam. His face was a canvas of remorse, confusion, and an emotion I couldn't quite name. He avoided my gaze, his hands fidgeting nervously. I understood that he was carrying the weight of this tangled connection, one neither of us had ever wished for. But upon reflection, I realized that none of this had been deliberate. Everything had happened beyond our control. The only certainty was that we couldn't ignore it or pretend it hadn't happened. Clara was right. These emotions, this chaos, needed to be confronted and resolved. "What do we do next, Liam?" I asked softly, my voice trembling but sincere. Liam looked up at me, his eyes glistening with inner conflict. "I don't know, Eliza. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel." Am I supposed to feel angry? Ashamed? Or do I even have the right to feel anything at all? His voice was frail, filled with the weight of the emotional battle raging inside him. He was a man caught between the profound bond we had built and his devotion to Clara, who had always stood by his side. I knew we couldn't solve this with just one conversation. The situation was too complex. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to him. The distance between us gradually shrank. I wanted to place a hand on his shoulder to offer some comfort, but I wasn't sure if that was appropriate. I no longer knew what was right or wrong. I don't think we can resolve everything right now, I said gently but firmly. But we need to have an honest conversation about this. It's too complicated to avoid. His face grew serious, though not cold. He nodded, his voice softening but still tinged with sadness. I understand, but I don't know where to start. I took another step forward, my heart pounding, though my voice remained calm. We start by acknowledging what happened, by admitting our true feelings. Then we'll figure out what steps to take next. Liam nodded again, his gaze softening slightly, as though he had found a small glimmer of light in the chaos. This won't be easy, Eliza, but I want to understand what's really happening between us. I grasped his hand, a light touch but enough to offer some comfort amid the flood of unnamed emotions. I don't have all the answers, Liam. I don't know what will happen next. But I'm not going to run from this anymore. We remained silent for a minute, both lost in our thoughts, trying to make sense of the complexity surrounding us. There was no path laid out for us, no guide to navigate the maze of emotions, regret, and uncertainty. But Clara had handed us a lifeline. Not immediate forgiveness, but permission to face reality and untangle the mess we had created. I looked at Liam once more. Our eyes met in a moment of mutual understanding, and in that moment I realized that whatever happened next, we would face it with honesty, not avoidance. There was no perfect solution, no easy way out, but there was still a chance for healing, for understanding, and maybe even for something better. I sank into a nearby chair, my mind swirling. Clara's image filled my head, her eerie calmness like a key unlocking a door I never knew existed. She hadn't condemned us. Instead, she had given us the space to face reality and uncover the truth behind our tangled emotions. But what would happen next? If we confessed everything we felt, would it be too much to bear? Would Clara ever truly forgive us? Those questions lingered, but I knew they belonged to the future. For now, it was just Liam and me, sitting in a silence that was both awkward and grounded in a stark reality. We both knew that nothing could ever go back to the way it was. The only way was forward, no matter where that path led. And together, we would find the answers. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the distant hum of evening traffic drifting through the open window. Liam finally broke it, his voice low and gravelly. I don't even know what to say to Clara. The raw vulnerability in his tone tugged at something deep within me. This wasn't the confident, capable cousin who'd taught me to change a tire or build a bookshelf. This was a man adrift, just like me. We have to be honest, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. We owe her that much, at least. The words felt inadequate, a flimsy bandage on a gaping wound. Owe her? We owed her everything, her home, her kindness, her trust. And we had shattered it. Liam ran a hand through his hair, his gaze fixed on the floor. Honest? Eliza, where do we even begin? Clara, your husband and I. It sounds like some terrible soap opera. A bitter laugh escaped me. Trust me, it feels like one too. The absurdity of the situation warred with the crushing weight of guilt. How had we gotten here? One innocent glance, a lingering touch, and suddenly we were teetering on the precipice of something catastrophic. She looked resigned, Liam said. His brow furrowed. Almost like she expected it. Clara's unsettling calmness replayed in my mind. Had there been signs I'd missed? Subtle shifts in her demeanor, a coolness in her eyes that I'd dismissed as her usual reserve? The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. Had we been so caught up in our own burgeoning emotions that we'd been blind to her reality? Maybe, I started, then trailed off. What could I possibly say? Maybe she's incredibly strong? Maybe she saw something we didn't? Neither felt right. We need to talk to her together, I said, my voice gaining a sliver of resolve. We made this mess, together. We face it together. Liam finally looked up, his eyes meeting mine. There was a flicker of something in them, not quite hope, but perhaps a shared sense of grim determination. Together, he echoed softly. The thought of facing Clara, of seeing the hurt in her eyes, was terrifying. But the alternative, letting the silence fester, allowing the unspoken to build an impenetrable wall between us, was even worse. When? I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. Liam hesitated. Give me a little time. I need to process this, just for tonight. I nodded, understanding his need for a moment to collect himself. I needed it too. The emotional whiplash of the evening had left me raw and exhausted. Okay, I agreed. But tomorrow. We talk to her tomorrow. He nodded again, a silent promise passing between us. The weight in the room hadn't lifted, but there was a shift, a fragile agreement to confront the storm head-on. I stood up, my legs feeling shaky. I should go back to my room. Liam didn't try to stop me. He remained seated on the edge of the bed, his shoulders slumped, a picture of quiet despair. As I reached the door, I hesitated, wanting to offer some word of comfort, but the right words eluded me. What could I possibly say? I'm sorry we fell for each other while living in your house. I slipped out of the room, closing the door softly behind me. The hallway felt cold and unfamiliar. My own room offered little solace. I sank onto the bed, the events of the evening replaying in my mind like a broken record. The stolen glances, the accidental touches, the undeniable chemistry that had simmered beneath the surface until it finally boiled over. And now the aftermath. The guilt, the confusion, the terrifying uncertainty of what lay ahead. Sleep was a distant luxury. My mind raced, replaying every moment with Liam, every interaction with Clara, searching for clues, for explanations, for a way out of this tangled web. But there were no easy answers, no simple solutions. We had crossed a line, and there was no going back. All that remained was to face the consequences, whatever they might be. As the first hint of dawn painted the sky outside my window, I finally drifted into a restless sleep, haunted by the image of Clara's calm, sorrowful eyes and the heavy weight of the unspoken words that hung between us. Tomorrow, the reckoning would begin, and I had no idea what the morning would bring.